Why is it? Oh, there we go. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with my good friend, Nick Soutter, or Nicholas Lamar Soutter is his whole name. He is the host of In Time. If you're unfamiliar with that show, I highly recommend you check it out. I've been on it, and other folks I know have been on it. And there's a link below for it. And if you dig what he does on that show, there is also a Patreon link for the show below and a personal one for Nick as well. And also I have his Twitter, his Facebook, and I think your personal website is there as well. Wow. So all the links are there. We're covered. If you say, hey, man, after this interview, I like this Nick guy. I'm going to follow his ass everywhere. I'm going to stalk him. Then there you go. You've got links to do just that. Well, basically, dude, you know what I do here. I talk to people about their journeys away from whatever fucking belief system they used to be in. And you know, it's funny. My friend Randolph Richardson, who I'm sure you know, pointed out a guy who went from being a Muslim to a Raelian, that rail guy, the alien dude who thinks that we were seeded by aliens.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, to an atheist. So, and he's suggesting I get him on the show, and I think that would be one hell of a roller coaster ride if we did.
I think that
for sure.
We had Aaron Rao on, and we had him on shortly after you did. And I think you came on like right after that. But and I like his just because he's very open and honest about it. He bounced around a lot too. You know, it's like when people don't, you know, yeah. So I think that's that sounds delightful.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be an interesting story if it comes to be. Well, we'll see. The guy hasn't really responded yet, so we'll see what happens. Nick is never on time, but he's in time. There you go. Red knows you well, buddy.
Yeah. I told you that's always the and we said whenever I'm on another show, they suffer it. It's but hey, I got my audio on this time. That's a refreshing change.
Hey man, we're batting 1,000 already. So all right, Nick.
Okay, well that number's about to plummet, but yeah.
No. Let's not. You know, I forgot to ask you too before we went live, and usually I do this before we go live. Are you cool to stick around a little bit afterwards for the after party for a little bit?
Absolutely. We like to do that on In Time too. I would love to. I'm actually just checking out because Randolph actually just came in yesterday on In Time. Yesterday we had on Osmandius and we had on Dr. Carrier together to discuss philosophy of religion. First time they aired together, and he came in. So yeah, no, he's a nice guy. I haven't had much of a chance to chat with him until yesterday, but yeah. Anyways, no, I'll be around. So as long as you like, I will be here.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, Dr. Carrier's he's a good guy. I talked to him a little bit before we went live with his Deconversion Story show, and he's a funny guy. I mean, I know there's some shit going on with him right now. That that's happening to a lot of people. Hopefully things get sorted out, and if he's guilty of whatever it is, then I hope he pays for what it is, and then we move on.
Yep.
Anywho, this isn't about him or Randolph or any of the other people. It's all about you tonight, Nick. So why don't you take us back to the early days of when you were a believer, and you sort of started seeing things. Or seeing through things, like you're looking behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz or something, and all the dominoes start falling, that kind of thing. And take us on that journey from that point to you becoming the atheist activist that you are today.
I'm an anti-theist, and I also actually own the Atheist Codex, which is a repository for anti-theistic arguments.
Yes.
So I'm pretty avid about it. But I started out a light Christian, raised Protestant. And I always sort of felt I deliberately didn't look too much into the Bible because I knew if I would, I'd sit there and say no. So I think
this can't be real.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of Christians who are that way. They're like, okay, I'm not going to look at the Bible because I don't want to have to critically think about this thing. I've heard some stories about what's in there. So, and I had gone to church. My mother insisted I go to church, and actually one of the I can't believe I've spaced his name. It's going to take me a minute to.
Puck always brings presents, just so you know. Every time he shows up, he's a present, so he's always brings presents.
I didn't get anything, but fine.
I know, me either.
Yeah, what is okay?
In the mail.
Just Gomes, Reverend Gomes, Peter Gomes, who was so I grew up in Cambridge, right? I grew up actually on Harvard Street, just 2 blocks away from Harvard Square, and the Harvard Church, Harvard Memorial Church, there was at the time Peter Gomes was the head of the Harvard Seminary, and he's reasonably well known, and I loved the guy. I was honored to know him, to get the chance to talk to him a lot. Great sense of humor, and he was on the Colbert Report several times. And I mean, he gave as good as he got. And that was the real him that you saw there. I rebelled in. I was told that the Sunday school at Harvard Memorial was not interested in my presence, and that was
why.
Well, because I really offered a lot of pushback, and I was a critical thinker even then. I did very much believe in God. Jesus, I kind of tried to stay away from because I wasn't sure about the water walking kind of thing. So, I mean, I was a Christian in the sense that I held to the rough standard of Judeo Christian beliefs, but I didn't read the Bible. I didn't sort of. At summer camp once, I just decided just to fuck with people. I grabbed a bed sheet, wrapped it around me, and then started walking around telling people I was Jesus, just to get a reaction out of people and see how they deal with it. And they got really pissed off. A lot of people got pissed off, and I was like,
and you're
okay,
never
now I need to
back to
understand.
camp again.
Well, yeah, I know. I actually was, but I was always the troublemaker, and
we would have gotten along, my friend.
What?
We would have gotten along as kids.
Yeah.
Both of us would have been causing trouble.
The other thing I did one night was went in and stole all the geese and the chickens out of we locked them into the main dining. Well, let me rephrase that. Somebody did that. They never caught the person who did that. I would never. But at any rate, this isn't about my shenanigans. How dare you ask these questions? I was told that this was going to be a fair interview.
Cop.
So, but the other thing was I was a healer, believe it or not, and I tell people this. I really, I felt like I was personally speaking to God every single day, and I think a number of people have this experience. It's the that inner monologue that sort of becomes that other voice. And I remember seeing it with people who said, I trust my instincts and my instincts have never been wrong. Well, there's hindsight bias. There's a million reasons why people sit there and say my instincts were never wrong. They were, and the reason is you have doubt with every decision you make. There's always doubt in basically every decision you make, and you sit there and you say, okay, well, do I follow my instincts or not? You don't realize what your instincts are and what's the doubt until after you've done it, and then you whichever one you want to make your instincts. Therefore, your instincts are always right. So it's hindsight bias, and it was funny because I started keeping a journal, and I said, okay, this is how I'm going to determine whether or not I'm doing these things. And I forced myself to say, what is this voice of God really saying? What is my instincts really saying? And I found, it doesn't actually work that way. I can't say beforehand. I have to say after, because it just doesn't work that way. And I'm just like, what the fuck does that? But I was thinking that, and I was going along those lines, and but I was a healer, and I think I'm empathic, and I am good at listening and communicating with people. And I always thought that voice in my head that's sitting down saying, what are they really trying to say? What's really important to this person? Because we almost never say what we mean. So the question is, what are we really trying to say? And how do you connect with this person on a human level? Because suffering hurts me, and I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like to watch people suffer. Right. So a lot of people during lunch hour, people would go around with their friends, hang out with their friends. I'd usually spend that time talking with somebody who just wanted to talk about shit, and I'd just listen, and they'd say they felt better. And I felt like there was this voice telling me, like, you should talk to this person next. You should talk to this person next. And I talked to these people, and they'd feel better. And it got so that people sort of knew it, and people were like, well, are you going to be a psychologist? You should be a psychologist. And people would actually give me money too. They say, well, here's $20. You deserve payment for that. I was always kind of like, I don't know, like I'm in high school running a scam, basically. But I really believed in, at a minimum, a higher power, the roughly Abrahamic tradition of God. I believed there was a heaven. I believed there was a hell. I didn't think any all-powerful God would ever send anybody to hell forever. That makes no sense. And so I said there are all these rules that we as human
Especially
beings
for finite crimes, right?
Yeah, well, exactly, right? Yeah. No, so there was so much of it that already didn't make sense, and yet so much of it that to me struck me as intuitive. There is a God, and he wants me to go around trying to help people, and he wants me to and he's empowered me to do this. And really, when I'm healing people, I'm not the one doing it; it's God. Which is an interesting one too, because it's like,
It's
I'm not
power
taking
through you, kind of thing.
Yes, you got it. Well, because it was always this voice that was lending direction as to where I should go, who I should talk to, and I always found people who I could help.
There's medication for that, right? The voices. I'm saying.
Yeah. There is, and no, I'll tell him. Don't worry.
Beautifully done.
Yeah. I'm on it. I take my medication every. Okay. So. Anyways, yeah. Well, no, it's just that inner monologue, and it was a marvelous feeling. I loved that feeling, and I loved the feeling that I was helping people, and I didn't need to take the credit for it either. And I would tell people too, if they asked about it, I'd be honest and say, look, it's, and I wouldn't necessarily say God, but it's this life force, it's this energy, and I was really into that. And then I was really well known. I mean, it's just like everybody knew that I was doing this, and I could heal people just by talking to them. And every now and then people would say, well, can you heal physical things? I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? And I wouldn't lay hands or anything, but I'd say, you know what, if you just talk about it right, you can make the pain get better. And people would report to me that it was working. And I'm sitting there going like, wow, this works. And that's the proof that it's really God. Yeah, I didn't care about the money. I learned to accept the money. And the reason actually was, in particular, there was one girl who had been through some really traumatic stuff, and she wanted to talk to me, and she gave me 20. And at first I was going, no, I don't. And I was just like, it just, the way the circumstances unfolded, I knew she'd actually be offended if I didn't take it. Like, yo, your money's not good enough. You're not. And I'm like, this isn't right. But there was this kind of community, like, no, you know, and you don't have to give them, but if you give them something, you just let him know and help him out and all this other stuff. So that was just sort of what was happening. I really didn't care about the money. I enjoyed the fact that I could help people. I did get a little drunk with it. And I got this sort of like, I can help anybody with anything. I can help adults. I can help kids. I can help. And I genuinely thought I could do no wrong with it, because it's coming from God, and God's not going to let me make a mistake. And it's all, I'll give him the credit. It's all going through him, and I don't. And then one day, a girl who I knew well had come up to me, and everybody knew she was going through some stuff. Nobody knew what it was. Her father had cancer, and he was not going to make it. He had been diagnosed recently. He was going to die. And she said, I want you to tell me what's good about that. Why is there good in that? And something that I had said before, and I believe this, and this becomes a problem when you start talking philosophy, psychology, anything like that. There is good in everything. There's bad in everything too. Any action has an infinite regress of other actions that follow. And if you pick all the good ones, you can say Hitler was actually great for, the world, because look at how, if we hadn't have come together as a country, the U.S. wouldn't have come into its own. We wouldn't have. So look at all these marvelous things. And that actually had to happen in order. So you can post hoc justify anything by finding the right acts. So
I still don't think Hitler was great, though. Fuck him.
What? Yeah, no, okay. I bridged too far on that one. Yeah. Well, the only reason I actually brought it up was because I
grew up Jewish, and we lost 4 family members in the Holocaust, right? So I'll never think of Hitler as good.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was some scientific advancements, medical scientific advancements, that came from some of that doctors of death shit that they did, but still, it doesn't make me like the guy anymore.
No, it doesn't. It's not a justification for liking him, but a justification for why maybe the world is a better place having gone through that experience.
I won't argue with that. I think we did come out on the wiser, maybe some advancements, but other than that, fuck him.
Yeah, yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't argue for him per se, but that again, with any action or with any event, you can find good consequences in it, and if you make those consequences the end all be all, then you can turn any negative into a positive that way.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I use that as a method to try to help people recover from. This was intuitive. I didn't have any training. I did take psychology eventually, but at the time I had no training.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, "What's the good in my father having cancer and the fact that he's going to die?" Now, the reality is, I could come up with a number of things that might hypothetically be positive but you can't do it as the process is. You can't sit there and say there is no good right now. There just is no good.
Yeah,
and I remember instinctively saying, "Stay away from this one. This is way out of your league." She's got, and I had met people with very serious problems before, but this was something different. And my instincts were, stay away from it. You will cause more harm than good. And that those were my instincts. Those were undeniably my instincts. It's like, nope, this isn't. You need to let her deal on with the pain on her own. You can't be there for everybody. She's beyond anything you can do. So, and then that voice kicked in and said, "Nope, I'm God. There is nobody you can't heal. There's nobody. Start talking to her and help." And I was just like, "No, this has got to be beyond me." Have faith. You see, this is, you have to have faith, man. Believe in yourself, and you can do it. Go and help her. This is what you have these skills for. And it was actually really just ego. It was, I'd had a tremendous amount of success. I was popular, and she was spitting it in my face. Really, she was just sort of like, "You're supposed to be good at this. You find a way to fix this," which was in part unfair, but it's not unfair in the sense that it's not unfair in this. Yeah, she's in pain, so she's gonna, she's gonna lash out. She's like, "Hey, you're supposed to make me. I dare you to make me feel better." And the answer is that I really can't. And but that's not the answer I gave.
I don't know how you could, really. I mean, it might maybe for a few minutes, but I think all of that sort of sinks back in right away, because I went through it with my dad, who also had cancer. So and I know that mindset, right? I know where you're like, it's hard to deal with. It really is.
Yep. Well, I think a close friend could do it, but not me. Not where I was. And you're not gonna. You can make it a little better, but you can't. It's just there's a process, and you're gonna have to go through it.
Yeah.
So I tried to help her anyway, and I said, "Well, here's some hypotheticals where how it could be in the future, because that's all you could do with that. It's silly, it's stupid." And all that did was she got more angry and more hurt. And I said, "Well, no, here's how I think you should look at it. Now, I think it's true. That is how you should look at it. But you're not going to talk to someone who's in the process of grieving because they just found out. You're not going to, it's not." And this voice kept telling me, "Yep, you're on it. You're on, dude. You can do no wrong. This is what you do. This is God working through you. You will help her. It's your responsibility." And yeah,
this is what you were sort of, clearly it was you telling yourself this in his voice kind of thing, which is, I think, is a little bit of a nod to self-confidence, but at the same time, I think you were right, arguing against yourself, saying you weren't qualified to deal with this.
I think it was arrogance. I think I'd had so much success, and because I couldn't quantify where that success was coming from. Irreal. So I was drunk on my own success. It was ego. It was arrogance. And
I'm drunk on beer, so
yeah. That's much preferred. Now for me, it's coffee. That's the closest I can do. But hey, the long story short, I made things a lot worse. And she went away just sobbing and crying, and I was just like, and the funny thing was, I was like, "Well, Nick, you did all you could do, and of course it wasn't going to work. So why are you thinking?" And then that voice said, "Nope. You know what's going to happen? 2-3 years from now, she's going to be over it. She's going to be moving on, and she's going to remember this, and you will have changed your life. You've done this marvelous thing." And I was just like, "Wait, what? How am I thinking this? What is?" I was like, "There's no evidence for that, and that's unfalsifiable." I didn't know the language for it at the time, but I was like, "That is unfalsifiable. I will probably never." I was a camp counselor at the time, but she was another camp counselor, and I was just like, "I'm never really going to see her again." I said, "There's no way to know." No, I know that feels good. I know that's a way to rationalize it, but that doesn't make it true. And
Sure.
then that voice was just like, well, no, you have to have faith, you have to have confidence, and just move forward. Stop asking these questions. And I was just like, okay, I'm starting to. I don't know how I feel about this anymore, because I'm responsible for any harm I cause, and I'm not going to cause harm. And just blindly doing whatever my instincts are. Is this instincts, or am I really hearing? Is this just sort of an inner dialogue, an inner monologue, whatever you want to call it, or am I really doing something? And I had already started keeping a journal, so I started going back on the journal, and I realized my memory, what happened in real life, was far more nuanced than my memories of them. And my journal was explicitly designed to give me an insight to what I was thinking if and when I go back to them. And even not that long ago, I was just like, whoa, here I am. And any objective person who didn't realize I was talking to God would take a look at this and say, you fucked that up bad, man. Like, but me looking at it, because I know that God was talking, I was just like, wow. So I started to have a real crisis of confidence. And I was telling myself, that sort of voice was like, no, these are the times that you just have to have faith. Just keep doing it. It's working. You can't argue with the fact it's working. If it's working, there's no other. That's the proof is in the pudding, man. It's happening. You're helping people. I was just like, no, because I'm hurting people too. I have to. So I started to say, listen, I need to prove that this is that I'm doing God's work. That this isn't just me, and I'm not fooling myself. And I would love there to be a God. I hate the idea that the only me there is the 1 foot of real estate right there. That's it. I was like, who the fuck wants that? I don't know. I'd love the idea there's a soul. I get to move on. I get to party other places. You know what?
Yeah, be cool.
Yeah. And
unfortunately,
yeah. Well, I get into this argument with anti-theists all the time. And they say, it's like, I would never wish for there to be a God and this and that. And like, I can't understand people, because I still today suffer the pain of my deconversion. It was not easy, and I still suffer a lot of pain as a result of it. It's been 20 years. But the reason is because I really did believe in a spiritual soul. I believed that we could even demonstrate it by the things that I was doing and so on and so forth. And then when I learned to think critically, it's like, no, none of this is true. That's a huge fucking loss.
Yep.
And I've heard people say, well, who would want heaven in the way God does it? It's like, you don't understand religion. I have never seen somebody join a religion they didn't like, that they didn't want to be a part of. If you want to understand religious people, come up with a God you would want to exist, because that's what all religious people do anyway. They follow the religion that they already believe in, that fits the values they already hold. They don't sit there and say, well, I'm a Catholic, so I have to believe in everything the Catholics tell me. And if the Catholics say, homosexuality is bad, then homosexuality is bad. No, if you think homosexuality is bad, you're like, well, the Catholics must have it wrong. I'll become another sect. There's
lots to choose from.
There is. And it's been my experience, everybody chooses the religion that fits the views they already hold. And so everybody's God is a personal God. And everybody's God is a God that loves them for who they are and shares their values. Every single one. Yep. Everybody thinks they're going to heaven. Every Catholic thinks they're going to heaven, and 90% of the other Catholics aren't, because they're posers, they're fake, and yeah. So I'm sitting there going like, so the first thing you need to realize, and when I talk to people about why deconversion can be so painful to so many people, they sit there and say, well, I would never want the God of Abraham. Well, but again, everybody's God of Abraham comes to them. They don't go to that God. That God shares their values. Now, I know that
it's like tailor-made.
Yep, it's tailor-made. You got it. It's tailor-made. Everybody makes their own God. Everybody. So that's what you're losing. You're not losing the God of Abraham. You're losing the God of Nick, or the God of Neil, or the God of. That's a huge loss. And you're losing.
My God can beat up your God.
yeah, but my God can heal himself. So
Well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, there's that. Well, and anyway, so I started getting very. I actually started into a pretty profound depression, and I also sort of went into a self-sabotaging period of time, especially when it came to helping other people and engaging other people. I didn't want to do it, but you don't deserve it. If this whole thing's been fake you don't deserve it. And the reality is it was real. It's just it was actually me. It wasn't anybody, which is amazing. It's like I've never had to work so hard to let myself take the credit for something that I did. But I was still, I went into college. I did some of the James Randi stuff. I went around for 3 months. Oh, I told everybody I was psychic for 3 months. And
really?
Yes, it was great. The consequences were because what started happening was people really started believing it. I mean, they just started. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. And what was hilarious was, well, not hilarious, but one day somebody came up to me and was just like, "Okay, I'm having problems with my girlfriend. I need to know what's going on. I wanted to marry her, but I think maybe she's doing something else. Can you help me?" And I was just like, "Okay, this is not a game anymore. There's real fucking consequences to this shit." So I decided to sort of map how everybody had fallen into this thing, and I had faked it all. I thought they were like, "Wow, Nick, that's really cool. Teach us how that went." No, they were so pissed I was a pariah for the next year. My whole first year in college was me being like, everybody thinking, "Wow, he's got these magical powers for the first half. For the second half, we're not speaking to the fucker." So yeah, people didn't appreciate. Somebody explained it to me best, which is nobody likes being made a fool of, and when they realized that, just how easily it was. I just followed the James Randi because James Randi created a script, but you could go off. Yeah. So I started to get really, really depressed too, because I was just like, okay, how does life have any meaning if there isn't this all the meaning's gone, purpose is gone, all of these things are gone.
Well, that's how you felt at the time. I mean, it's not actually the way it is, but that's how you felt, I suppose.
Well, I'm going to say a little bit of both. And the reason I'm going to say a little bit of both is because if you mean meaning in a metaphysical sense, yes, it's gone. It's absolutely gone. I just don't think meaning has to be only metaphysical. And in fact, that is a fairy tale we tell ourselves. And that's why I think religion is so unhealthy. I think, and if you take a look at, because I did the SJ debate, which people, that's still floating around. I mean, people still see that new for the first time, my debate with SJ Thomason. And she talks about depression amongst atheists in Western cultures. But what she talks about that is these studies that found that that's true, but that's only true in predominantly religious cultures where they're deconverting from those religious cultures. If they grow up secular and aren't told that there is this metaphysical being with whom they have a personal connection and makes life all come up roses and does all these things, to make sure you have an eternal soul. If you don't start from that position, but if you start from a realistic position, depression doesn't set in. And people have a good understanding of reality. And Neil deGrasse Tyson explained this beautifully, which is because he says he runs the planetarium, and people come to him after that and say, "Wow, I saw that, and now I'm really depressed when I see how small we are in the universe. So what do I do?" And his answer is, well, if that depresses you, then your ego was too big to begin with, which is completely true. He's absolutely right, but it doesn't solve the immediate problem of that's a far fall.
It's like, I guess, realizing something like that. I went through it a little bit when we do the whole you learn about how vast everything is, because there was a time when we thought that the universe was only 1.5 billion years old, right? And then, of course, after time, you find the cosmic background, radiation, all that shit, and now we know that it's right around 13.7 billion years, and that's a lot of time since the inception of the universe, like since the birth of the universe to now, for it to be just immensely massive, right? And they have suns out there that you can fit over 1 billion of our suns into.
Yeah.
Right? Just imagine that. So yeah, in essence, we are on a universal scale. We're just this insignificant little pale blue dot in the middle of nowhere.
A speck of dust.
Literally.
Yeah. And I that's absolute. I think that can be a wonderful thing, but it's not a wonderful thing if you start with fairy tales that grown-ups take as reality, and then you have to learn what the reality. No, I don't.
Yeah, we're the center of the universe in those fairy tales too.
Yes, we are. Which every culture does. There's a great map of the United States for New Yorkers, and in it, it's New York is 80% of the map, and then you see the rest of the United States right around the thing. And I was thinking that's Texas will do the same thing.
It's Toronto.
Yeah. But every tribe thought it was the only tribe, and it was the best tribe. It finds other tribes, they form nations. They decide they're the only nations, and they're the only continents, and that's
so on and so on.
Yep. So I finally sort of reached this crisis where I said I need a sign, and I need something to prove. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I was driving down Route 9 in Massachusetts, which a lot of the highways in Massachusetts actually do concentric circles around Boston. This is the only major highway that goes east to west. If you want to get from one side of Massachusetts to the other, it's Route 9. I was going to school.
So, we were talking about that, and then somebody popped this up there. I find the thought of being a talking monkey on a tiny planet in an insignificant solar system in an average galaxy that could disappear tomorrow and not be noticed in what may be the 52nd universe. I love that.
Yeah, I heard you like the guy's name too. He's
Titan.
Titan, yeah. So I'm going down, and I started saying to myself, I really need a sign, and I'm going to stop. It was a threat. I'm going to stop believing if I don't see a sign, if something doesn't add. I really was suffering significant depression. I'm a little prone to depression anyway, so this wasn't helping. And I come up over this hill. I start going into a valley. I said, I need a sign, and if I don't get it right now, my faith is done. And a cross lit up on a hill.
Wait, what?
Huge cross lit up on a hill. Yeah. And at that moment, I was a born again Christian. Now, I don't know for how long that lasted. I didn't have an egg timer on me, but
egg timer.
I was a born again Christian, and I remember seeing the cross and saying, "Oh my God, Jesus is real," and it really is. It's not just the Abrahamic God. It's Jesus. I was just like, wow, and I started to forgive everybody. I forgave all the. I hadn't felt that good in a very, very long time. Then I burst out laughing. I burst out laughing because I realized how I had tricked myself in this. That's a very famous cross. That cross is operated by nuns of, I forget what, but it's the church is long gone. But the cross was constructed in such a way that on that section of Route 9, you'd actually, now Massachusetts, it's all rolling hills. It's very hard to find any stretch of road that goes on for more than a minute. This one goes on for about 2 minutes straight, and it's in a valley. And so there's a hill, and this cross had been constructed on that hill in such a way that you can't see. It's just all green, everything, but it's floating in the air if you are going down Route 9. And I had seen that cross many, many times, but during the day, you can't see it. The metal, it's very thin metal rails. You can't see it during the day. You can only see it at night when they turn it on. And if you've ever been down that stretch at night, it's spectacular. It's impossible to miss. At any given moment, it's being viewed by at least 200, 300 people on that highway. And because I had been down that road so many times, I knew it was there. And I realized I had programmed myself that every time I hit that hill, I would start thinking about God. Why? Because it's a symbol. That's what we have symbols for. Yep. They have the cross so that you'll start thinking about it. Yep. And I had been down that road, I shit you not, at least 2,000 times. I mean, that road I needed to take to get to high school. I needed to take that to get to college, but back and forth. It was my parents were on one side, the school was on the other. So I took that road all the time. I knew it was there. You see it once at night, you know it's there. And I just programmed myself to always think about God. And I realized I'd asked that question. I said, I want proof. I want evidence right here, right now. And this is the last time. And I'd said that like 100 times before. And I'm sitting there going, I've said this 100 times before. But in the 2,000 times I had gone down that road, there was one thing I had never done. I had never gone down it during dusk. At dusk, every single day, they turn it on. And every single day, there's hundreds of people going down that road who subconsciously, at a minimum, know that cross is there and are now thinking about God. And how many of them are saying to themselves, I really need a sign. I need a sign. Poof. And I looked it up.
Flick.
Yep. Nope. It's not a flick.
Oh,
the fucking thing's on a timer.
Yeah.
It's on a timer.
We got one like that here too. It's not quite as big as the one you're talking about, but there's one on a hill here that is also on a timer. Not here, but in the valley.
Yeah.
There.
So it's not even, God just told them to turn it on at that moment just for me, which of course you could, it's on a timer. If I had and I've been down that road thousands of times. So I laughed and I realized that's how badly I wanted it. I would do anything to convince myself.
Yeah.
And it looks like it has to be genuine, but I'm sitting there going, I'm not the only guy on this highway. How many other people just now converted to Christianity because that thing turned on? Which is, by the way, the whole point. It is the point. They don't sit there and say, "But that's the point of symbols." That's I
can tell you, she didn't. I wonder, Lisa. I never thought about God's when I see the cross. She's like fourth generation atheist or some shit. So.
Oh well, yeah, that would, yeah. Well, so anyways, that was funny and tragic, but that is usually the moment I realized when the back was broken on any belief after that, because I was just like, it was so obvious. I had literally tricked myself and deluded myself into the entire thing, and I suffered a lot of depression after that. I had to sort of rewire my own thinking, and I think that takes time. And that's why I also differentiate earlier between metaphysical purpose and purpose in a non-metaphysical sense, because I think the older you are, deconversions can be very difficult because you have to adjust yourself to the what's his name? I've forgotten his name. One of the last kings of in China, who I think it was after Mao had been dethroned. It couldn't have been Mao because I think they killed. But at any rate, and he ended up in prison. And he goes from being a king who was basically equated with as a god and was treated as a god. And if he said, I think you should kill yourself now, guy would kill themselves, to being a prisoner, an inmate who wasn't even looked out on worse than the other prisoners. He didn't have the distinction of being a famous prisoner. Even in prison, he was just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And the damage that does to the psyche. So, so that's it. And I think, there's more. I eventually became an anti-theist because I do think that this is very damaging to us. I think that it's I'm more concerned. I'm not as concerned with deconversions, but as you know, deconversions, we have a deconversion series on In Time because I find them fascinating. I do get kind of annoyed with the anti-theists who sit there and say, it should be easy. I don't understand why people, it's like, if you don't understand, I get that. I'm glad you don't understand. I'm happy for the people who don't understand. Yeah. But it's a personal God. They're all personal gods. Even the God of Abraham is a personal God, and that's a terrible loss. I have a friend of mine who's always saying, well, you need more magic in your life. I agree. I'd like to have more magic in my life, but my brain doesn't really work that way, and I terribly miss the time that it did. I miss that a lot. But the reality is going to be reality, whatever you want or believe. That's right. And if you're going to be a good person, you have to do your best to live in reality. And it's a personal responsibility. And it's a personal responsibility that for me started with that woman whose dad had cancer. And I said, I got God on my side, man. I can help you. Yeah. No.
Yeah. It's funny. You obviously, with the voices and stuff, you convinced yourself that you could be of some sort of service to her. And of course, when you mentioned that she kind of walked away from it a little bit in tears and stuff like that, did you ever hear from her or see her again?
No. I saw her like across because we worked in the same. I don't think I ever really spoke to her again. That probably was close to reasonably the end of the summer, and I think she didn't want to talk to me, and I was ashamed. I was embarrassed because I was just like, and then again there was this part of me that just said, "Don't be." I guarantee you, 2 years from now, everything will be great, and this will be the most important experience of her life. Just like, how the fuck would you know that? But
no kidding. It'd be interesting to find out if something like that did occur, or if she just shuffled it under the rug and that was it.
I don't want to know. I think I'd be too embarrassed. It was. I know what the truth is. If something positive happened, it was luck.
Of course, yes.
So I don't need to. I remember her name, and I remember exactly what she looked like, and I remember the conversation. I remember where we had it. I didn't question a thing until that moment, and that was probably junior or senior year in high school.
Cool.
Didn't question a thing. So I mean, like I said, I was kicked out of Sunday school because they're like, well, this happened for a reason. This happened for a reason. I was like, yeah, it's called determinism. Like a butterfly flaps its wings, dude. And I intuited it. I intuited chaos theory came naturally to me. A lot of relativity always came naturally to me. I remember my senior year in high school, they were teaching this. I was like, okay, so this, and I even got into arguments with the physics teacher, for which I was reprimanded as actually kissing up to. I was like, I'm disagreeing with him, and I lost more times than I won, but there were times I handed his ass to all this shit too.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Because I could intuit it. I could extrapolate from what was there to other things that he wasn't. I mean, he was just a teacher of what he did. It doesn't matter. It was I've always had an interesting relationships with institutions of learning.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, high school. I did what I had to do to get through it, and ultimately, the last couple of years, I ended up on the honor roll, so that was pretty interesting. And I didn't really even try. So, and I told that to one of my teachers, and she said, "You didn't even try." I go, I don't know. This shit's kind of boring and easy for me, so I just do my work, hand it in, do the tests, hand it in, and hey, here I am, honor roll. I don't know how, but hey. And then college, I did art stuff, and I did cooking stuff, and I did chemistry and a little bit of physics, post-secondary stuff. And I just did what I did. I didn't really put much of it to use until recently. Well, recently being within the past 10, 11 years, where I actually put my chemistry to use and became a hack chemist for an environmental company, pretty much. And of course, my boss always comes in and is like, try not to blow the place up today. Like I did yesterday or something. That ain't a joke. My wife has a PhD in biochemistry. She's been working mostly in the industry, but she was working in academia for a little while. Mm-hmm. But actually, she was working at BASF, and she worked in the life sciences. But there was a chemistry department there, and so every time they had to evacuate because it was a fire, it was the chemistry department. Every time something was going to blow up, it was the chemistry department. So not surprising.
She'd come home and say, "Those fuckers in chemistry are going to kill us all." She's like, "Yeah." She's not a fan of chemists. mostly because she thinks they're going to kill us all. But anyway, there's nothing.
Iva or Eva? Yeah, there's nothing insignificant in the world. It all depends on the point of view. From Goethe.
Goethe, I like that one.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice little sentiment there.
Yeah.
So what about your family and stuff? When you decided that you just didn't believe anymore, was there any repercussions or pushback from family, friends, that kind of thing?
Was there any pushback? No. Well, no. I think my father always said he believed, but like I said, he was raised Protestant. But I remember going up to him once, and I said to him, this was, I think, early on in high school. I said, by the way, what religion am I? I said, I don't even know. He goes, you're not a religion. Because none of us are. If anybody asks you, say you were raised Protestant. Because there you go. You're going to stay reasonably out of trouble that way. You're not going to get in with any other Catholic baggage. You don't have to know anything. You're just Protestant. I was like, okay, so that's what I tell people. Loosely Protestant. I think he sort of believed, again, I think his beliefs always sort of mimicked mine, which was, he assumed that there was a higher power of some kind. I don't think he was big on Jesus. We certainly never mentioned Jesus around the dinner table. I think sort of nuns.
Well, unless he showed up for dinner or something.
Unless if he showed up for dinner, it would be an interesting change in topic, I suspect.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Well, like I said, I almost did once. Hey, I just grabbed that sheet. I still had the sheet. No. I was a bit of I was just a troublemaker because I just like poking at shit. I was just like, I'm going to go around as Jesus. And somebody said, "You're not Jesus, man." I said, I forgive your blasphemy.
Nah.
That was not. Yeah. Anyways, so I no, there weren't a lot of repercussions. Every now and then, I mean, I had one person who made a bet that he would be able to convince me that the Bible was real, and I was just like, the only reason I'm not going to take that bet is because I really don't want you to waste your time. This could be such a waste of everybody's time. Like, you will never, ever get me from point A to point point Z on that one. That's just not going to. Even when I was a believer, I wasn't there. So, I know I haven't had a lot of consequences. When I do, the closest is when I meet extended family or in-laws or relatives of, I just try to bite my tongue, because there's a time and a place. And even though I'm an anti-theist, even though I really do think that religion is dangerous, I think the poisons everything is probably not off the mark. Yeah. But that doesn't mean there's a time and a place to fight it. Sorry, that doesn't mean there isn't a time and a place. So I don't do those fights. And a lot of people misunderstand Hitchens. Because Hitchens, in his debate with, they think he opposed all religious views. He didn't.
Him on the wall behind you?
Actually, I got him over there. I have. Let me get. So
it looks like Hitchens from a distance.
Yeah, I have. No, this is the Hitchens one. So that's a signed. I don't know if you can.
Oh, he signed that?
Yeah.
That is fucking amazing, dude. I am totally jelly right now.
So I love Hitchens. It's funny because Hitchens and that poster I've had since college also. The Martin Luther King Jr. one. Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
I've always it's Martin Luther King Jr.
I told him it looks like. Don't tell him I told him it looks like Hitchens.
Yeah. I won't. It's two very different people, somewhat different approaches to things.
Well, it's black and white too, right? So I can't really.
It is black and white. Some most people. And I used to keep that one over there too, because I don't want to be accused of virtue signaling or anything like that. But I've had that one since college, which is the other thing that people don't. It's like, a college white kid with Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. But I have, since I learned who he was, which I was 7 years old. I actually had that before college. I had that before high school. Not that exact one, because every now and then it breaks and you got to replace it. But I've always had one. And the two people I most respect and admire in this world, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. would be one, and Christopher Hitchens would be two. Believe it or not, those are the two. But Hitchens wasn't against all religion. He absolutely wasn't. One of the things I argued, and I got into it with a Jewish woman, a rabbi actually, about whether or not the civil rights movement was religious, which of course it really was not, and that was deliberate.
It was not, no.
And that was deliberate.
Is it Iva or Eva? Either.
The quote on the mark. Okay.
Yeah, the quote on the MLK poster.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Very, very wise.
And actually, just because it's apropos, in case you weren't able to read it, I try to deny myself any illusions or delusions. I think perhaps this entitles me to try to deny others the same to others, as long as they refuse to keep their fantasies to themselves. Which is now he had said with Sharpton, he said, "Listen, you'll never get rid of religion. It's people's favorite toy, and people are going to sit there and they're going to play with these toys as long as we're afraid of death." At least that's how Floyd put it.
That's kind of what I think too. Yeah.
So that's fine. Go play with your toys. Go have little clubs. Have a clubhouse in your basement. And go play with the toys with other people who want to play. Don't make me play with the toys. Don't make my kids play with the toys. Don't tell me what toys I can or can't play with because of what your toys say I can or can't. Don't. And so he was against really organized religion for the most part, if you want to put it that way, or the religion suppressing people. And so that's what I'm against. I don't. If religion makes people happy, keep it. Don't start telling other people they're going to go to hell because they're gay. Don't tell me who I can or can't love or be with or how to express my life because of what the voice in your head tells you. Nope, you don't have that authority over me, and I'd like you to stop. So that's it.
I've had to say almost exactly that to people here where I live before. Because just because they see my T-shirt that says Atheism, a non-profit organization or something, right? There's this one guy, little old guy, kind of looks like James Randi. Now that you mentioned, Randi, but he's got this little red hat with little crosses and shit all over it. So he's definitely not James Randi. But he's always going, "Why are you an atheist? There's a God out there and he loves you." And I'm like, "Shut up, man! Just eat your fucking donuts." Tim Hortons usually, and just leave me the fuck alone. So, yeah.
That's one of the things I lucked out on, is because I remember I used to debate. I engaged in debate all the time. There was no debate club in high school. I tried to start one, didn't take off, but I'd engage in any informal debates I could. And I remember the first atheist I ever met, and I thought they were fake. I didn't think atheists were real. I thought everybody kind of knows the whole Romans thing. So, and now I am one, of course. And so it's funny because I can also empathize with people because I've had atheists say, how could they think that atheists aren't real? I was like, trust me, they do. I thought they were attention seeking. I thought they were, and here I am on the other side of the.
They just want to sin. They hate God. They're angry with him.
Yeah. Or they want it because they want to have orgies and all this other stuff. And now I'm really kind of pissed off.
There's some benefits of being an atheist, I guess.
Nobody's sending me the cards to the orgy. I'm not getting orgy cards in the mail. Where's my orgy, card, man? I don't. That's why I joined, and apparently I don't get the. Okay, I'm obviously off the mailing list for some reason. I don't know, but
okay, who did I piss off that they wanted?
Well, that list is long. And, but yeah. So so Hitchens. That's it. So I don't try to deconvert everybody I meet, and if it makes them happy, cool, that's perfectly fine. I remember when it made me happy too. But don't when you start hurting anybody, doesn't have to be me. If you start hurting anybody with it, I will actively oppose you.
Yep, that's me too. When it brings harm, that's when I get my shit in there.
Yep.
Right. So you can believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. Just keep it to yourself.
And the only other just
harmful doctrines that you're spewing out, like the NIFB or some shit like that.
Yo, right? Jesus, yeah. No, they have to be dealt with. Do you have kids? I've forgotten. Jesus. I think you. I'm sorry. What?
I said, please don't invoke Jesus.
I wanted to know if you had kids, because you had said you had gotten, and this is the only other one, which is we actually tell our kids not to talk about atheism. And it was funny because I did get into this with a Christian who had said, "You're not raising your kids atheists, are you?" I said, "No, of course not." They're like, "Oh, thank God." So I'm teaching them Hinduism. I'm teaching them Buddhism. I'm teaching them, all of them, and let them choose. They're like, "What? That's the same thing as making them atheists." It's like, interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Really good. Wow. What a coincidence. But
and at that moment they went, "Oh, Jesus fucking Christ."
So we try to keep it on the down low, just because I don't want the girls to suffer too. And they have on occasion. It's kind of gotten around the school that, okay, the suitors are the atheists, and it bothers some people. It doesn't bother a lot. It hasn't had a let's see.
We're in, buddy. If you want
sweet
clubs, you can join.
Oh, sweet. Hit me up, DM.
Give me an address.
Yeah. So that's it. I worry about the kids because we do live it's a bigoted time. I don't want them to have to hide it, but I also don't. I ask them not to advertise it. You know what I mean? I say,
right.
Don't. I said, and that's my suggestion. I don't even ask them. That's just my suggestion. There are reasons for it. They can do what they like.
Sure, but you should. I would say that sometimes it can get people into harm's way by doing so as well.
Yeah, well, especially at that age, if they're advertising it just because they want to stir the pot or because they want attention, that's not really a good reason to do it. Yeah. So they don't have the self-awareness yet. If they hit high school and they say, "Dad, I want to come out as an anti-theist. I want to be the next Christopher Hitchens." You go do that, and you'll have my support completely. But let's wait on advertising it until you're a bit older and can take responsibility for whatever consequences happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's it. But it's Massachusetts. It's a liberal state. It's one of the reasons we first state to legalize gay marriage, and I'm actually proud of that. It's like it's a little weird.
State that did that.
Nope, it was Massachusetts.
Okay, very cool.
Yep.
So my information. Yeah. That's okay. Learn something new. It's a good day when you learn something. That's what I was told by my grandpa when I was a kid. So.
So yeah, I think I don't know. That's about it. And then my wife, my wife was already sort of a religious or closer to a nun, and that also sort of brought me a little bit more on that side of it. So we, I think that's where we are.
Mikey, my producer, just showed up. And he did the hashtag coin because apparently there's
Nice.
a game now because I have the Mario coin as my notification for when.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been hearing it every once in a while, and they can hear it in the chat too. So every time it goes off, everyone drinks. So.
Oh, okay. I just want to know what I'm curious to know what the trigger word is. That of
hashtag coin. There we go.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Everybody drink.
Yep. Yeah, Maine wasn't too far. Yeah.
Amy was my last guest, actually, Nick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
On Monday.
Well, yeah, I got to say, and I wanted to see the Carrier episode. I saw the one with Brody, who I really like. He's been on the show a lot, and we're just doing a lot of interesting stuff with him. So he's I really like him, and of course Aaron and all the others. I really do love what you do here. We've been sort of modeling it a bit on In Time. We have a deconversion series. We just bring on people for it. It's not like what we're known for, but we got the series.
Better. I think these stories are important. It should be heard. So you got my support for sure for doing that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Well, I know. You came on the show and talked about that.
True. That's true too.
Yeah. But no, I'd like to do more. We've spoken with Dillahunty, and we had Dillahunty on. The problem is everybody wants his deconversion story. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like we've spoken with Dillahunty. We had him on to discuss debates, and so we discussed are debates important now? Is there, especially since the death of Hitchens, Harris still does debates, but what are debates for? Is it really important? What happened with the Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate? Yeah. Are you just platforming bad ideas? So that was a great discussion, and we're like, would you come back for the religion one? Is like, no. Okay, I can't blame him. At least we got he doesn't want to. Yeah, I get that. So we're gonna do some more. I should have actually Ozzy and or Richard Carrier for that one, but
Richard will do it for sure.
Oh, and I
he enjoyed our conversation. He had a good time. He told me so.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just stealing your content.
By that point. What about Seth Andrews?
I'd like to. I've never even met Seth Andrews. But if you could arrange all right. Well, listen, I'd love to. I love Seth Andrews. I'd love to.
He's good people, man. He's good people.
He seems. Well, I really love. I've seen a couple of his, especially the YouTube videos. He did one on the why Christians sound dumb. And it was a hilarious video, and he's just got the dumb phrases that he used to utter too, as a bless his heart.
He says that right in the beginning. Yep.
Yeah. It's a great video. It's like, it's like help Jesus do the surgery. It's like, no, I want to help the doctor do the surgery. Let Jesus, It's like
Jesus can sit back and fucking watch. School.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with Seth, having him on the show, a lot of the folks in my chat were like, wow, this is like two of the most soothing voices on the air right now together in one room talking to each other. I think you might be putting the audience to sleep. So it's like, how do I deal with that?
He's got the radio voice. I've been accused of doing that too. It's like, especially especially if I'm if I'm thinking, and I'm just and then I guess my voice gets like this, and I'm thinking and I'm being a little quiet. I think that has that effect. But honestly, people tell me it's the voice. I think they're being charitable. I think it's the content. But anyways,
interesting question from Beej. How would you guys handle a street preacher on a bus or something? And actually, I can answer this.
Please, I'm eager to hear it.
When I was growing up in Richmond, there was the number 3 road bus loop is where the Jehovah's Witnesses would come up and they'd park their cars. And they'd all get out of their cars, like fucking 20 of them. And they'd all stand there and they'd have their Bibles out and they'd start yelling at everybody. So I went by them one time and I said, listen, if you guys don't get in your fucking cars and get out of here and go do this somewhere else, myself, and you see those 4 other guys over there that are like twice my size? And I was already 6'2", I think, at the time. We're going to come over here and kick your fucking asses. And they all got in their cars and they drove away. But I was like 16 or 17 at the time or something. So I was a punk ass kid. I wouldn't do that today, but I would definitely way I would deal with them is they can do whatever the fuck they want. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. I'll go grab a beer until these idiots are gone. Then I'll come back and go where I got to go. It's that simple.
Same for me, except maybe I'll deliberately stand between them and like a child or something like that. If it just happens to be.
Yeah.
If there's something, you know what? If there's a way,
Situational.
if there's a way I can make their life subtly just a little harder without anybody noticing, I'll do that. It's a mild protest, but I'm not. It's a public area. I want to do that. And in my view, so I used to do. I used to be a political operative. So I was the district coordinator for the second congressional district in Connecticut for the Obama campaign, and we had a church, and this was right after he won Nevada. So we weren't filled to capacity on 200 people. We're like, how are we going to make it look like there's this enthusiasm for Obama? We can't even fill the church. And then he won Nevada, and then we had to throw out the list of invites because there was now more than 2,000 who wanted to show up. So we had this huge long line, and the Secret Service showed up, and it turns out they don't have a sense of humor. And
that's not surprising.
Well, his Secret Service detail had been more than doubled. It exceeded that of Bush by that point because this was the first black candidate who had a shot at winning, and he had a Secret Service detail. So they come to us and they say, okay, no phones, no purses, no cameras in the church, period. If somebody's got a purse, they can't go in. No backpacks, nothing. So it's just like, holy shit. I was like, okay, we didn't tell anybody any of this, but okay. So I have to go down this line of over 1,000 people and start telling them this and explaining to them, look, this isn't our part. This is the Secret fucking Service. We can't do anything. So I'm telling them this, and a John Edwards guy comes up behind me, and he's like, first they take our phone. He's holding up the sign. He's like, first they take our phones, then they take our cameras. What's next? Vote Kerry. And he's coming down behind me as I'm doing this line. And a friend of mine comes up and is just like, you want me to like try to get rid of him? Because he's being disruptive. I was like, no, this is the best thing that could ever happen to us because this is Kerry's support of the John Kerry side. And everybody knows it's got nothing to do with us. And he's sitting there going like, first they take our phones, then they take our, they're going to take our freedoms. Don't vote for Obama. I was just like, this is perfect. This is the best. Let these fuckers talk. So, and I was like, get him a cup of water. We got him a cup of water. We're like, hey, you want to come down? You can just stay right behind me. And as I tell people the policy, you just do you. And he did. And so we walked, a couple hundred people before he went on. I was like, no, that's great. So, I think it doesn't always work that way. You shouldn't just assume that allowing idiots to speak is always going to be in your favor. But in that particular case, it's like, somebody wants to go on a subway and start acting like an idiot. The good news is most of the people are going to realize they're an idiot.
Yep, that's right. And just ignore them mostly. Yep. Another interesting question. What do you guys do when somebody says they are praying for you? I usually say thank you. And I know many people that do that because the sentiment is well-meaning.
Yeah.
And I get that. I used to do that. And nowadays I just say, thank you. I'll go home and talk to my cat for you. Expect the same effect.
Yeah, I for me, it's grandmother's socks. Your grandma gives you green pea, split pea soup colored socks for Christmas. What do? You say thank you. So thought that counts. They think it's going to do well.
Right.
You're not going to convince me that it's not. But there's no point in. So I always say thank you. I take it for how it's intended.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you can tell that there's that little jibe in there with.
Oh yes. Oh. And then I may get a little snarky.
That's usually when I use that line.
Yeah. No. It's good to have some snark. Again, the bless his heart. You know what I mean when they start to find ways to use religion to get jabs at. Well, Jesus says a lot of things. So let's talk about what Jesus does.
Does he though? Say. Does he really though? Or is it all in your head?
Oh, what was the Secret Service code name for Obama? I have forgotten. I used to know what it was for Obama and for Edwards. I honestly don't remember. That's a really good question.
Yeah. So
no, that's it. I try to. Here's the other thing, and this is one of the things I talk to other anti-theists about. There's a movement in anti-theism to humiliate people who have religious beliefs are like, well, they're stupid, they should be humiliated. I don't concur for the most part. I don't think that humiliation.
I think that's silly too. It's not productive. It can very much work against you. Yeah.
Yes, because here's the other thing. What if they're starting to lose their faith, but they're like, well, am I going to become like the atheist and just be an asshole to everybody? Right. I'd rather keep my faith and be a good human being. So you can't be the only alternative. Be a nice religious person or be an atheist asshole. If you can be a good person and an atheist, and you can show that to them by expressing compassion and by working with them, then that's what I think is going to have bear the most fruit. Are there exceptions? Of course, but that's the best way to do it. I feel better about it. I sleep better at night that way too. So the self-aggrandizing. Hey, it's a lot of fun to go up. Your beliefs are stupid. You're an idiot. You believe that some God created the universe, set all these limitations, turned himself human so that he could be sacrificed by us to fulfill a prophecy he made in order to give him secret powers to forgive us for all the things that he could have stopped us from doing in the first place, but he made us do.
Yeah.
That's
one of my arguments. If he knew all this was going to happen, why do you go ahead with it all?
Yeah. That does beg to be mocked. I will grant that. But these are human beings who believe it, and they're human beings with feelings, and they're human beings who, in some cases, need it. Yes. So you have to tread lightly.
I get the whole feelings thing, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? I really don't care about someone's feelings. It's under certain circumstances, for sure.
Oh yeah.
But for the most part, I'm not out to upset people. I'm like, listen, I don't believe what you believe, and that's that. That's pretty much all it boils down to. You want to believe it? That's fine. Keep it to yourself. Keep it away from my kids, my family. Just do what you do, but they can't because they're told. The book literally fucking tells them,
yes,
spread the word. Have you heard the good news? Yeah, I did. It was in Sports Illustrated, the swimsuit.
Yeah. Oh. That's the problem. And those are the. I mean, I don't mind paganism in general. I don't mind any of the pantheists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, if they're keeping,
but they don't push it. They're solitary practitioners, pretty much.
Yeah. And great, but it's the Abrahamics have a very serious problem, which is all of those books up through the Quran basically says you are required to impose this on other people. That's a serious problem. And that has to be addressed.
Yep, and Matt's right. Facts don't care about your feelings.
No, that's true.
Science doesn't care what you believe, folks. You got to keep that in mind.
Science is that's what I like about science. I have the Neil deGrasse Tyson. I have two Neil deGrasse Tyson shirts. One is I
have that one too.
That's you have. There's one that it's actually a Stephen Hawking quote about intelligence is the ability to adapt to change in information. And Neil deGrasse Tyson rewrote that, taking every letter and replacing them with numbers. So when you read it, it looks garbled, and you have to actually be able to adapt to it and figure out what
decoder rings or something. Like
you could look at it because it's like that. Like an E is replaced with a 3.
Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So intelligence is the ability to adapt to change in information, but that's all spelled with everywhere where you could possibly put in a letter or a number and still maybe identify it. So Neil deGrasse Tyson just rewrote that, printed up a whole bunch of shirts. So I got one of those. That was a gift.
I've seen that. That's a brilliant little thing.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, dude, we're well past the hour, buddy. We
yes,
went
sir.
almost hour and 10 minutes, which is great because I love it when conversations happen like this and they're fun and they're good and we just keep going. But let's carry all because this is the kind of thing we can do in the after party. We can talk and have some other folks put their 2 cents worth in.
There it goes again.
Generally worth about a penny or money. But,
it's worth one of the Mario coins, which
it's worth a Mario coin, which is literally like Monopoly money here. But anyway, it's been a blast, dude. It's been great having you on. Finally having you on, because I know because we've known each other for almost a year and a half.
Even before you were on the show, well before you were on the show, we've been no, it's marvelous. I think I had a whole block of free time right as you were on hiatus, and then you come back and I was like, dude, who's got fucking time? Do you realize I'm producing? producing 3 shows now. But no, it's I have been dying to do this. So thank you very much for having me. It's been a genuine
pleasure, my friend. It's always good to talk with you. You know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do that. We'll get into an after party. We'll have a few folks in.
Perfect.
If anyone would like to join Nick and myself, you just let me know through Twitter. If you're not on Twitter and you follow me on Facebook, you can hit me on Facebook Messenger as well. Basically, if you dig the show and you want to help out, I do have some links below where you can help the show. I got my Amazon wish list. I've got my Patreon. There's also Nick's Patreons for both In Time and his personal one as well for his writing and stuff like that. Because Nick has written a couple of books. It's 2 or 3. It's 2.
Well, I've written a lot that are available right now. It's only 2. Okay. And that's actually, there's a couple like awards back there because some of them like Best of 2012 in Kirkus Clarion, a few other things. But yeah, it's been there's a lot back there. But yeah, so a couple of different books on a couple of different topics. Some of them are rather scary too. But it's we can hit it in the after show if anyone wants it.
Sure. I've already actually my moderators, all fucking 8 billion of them, because apparently I give wrenches to everybody. They've all been posting your book Amazon links and shit like that.
Oh, thank you so much.
So there you go. Yeah, lots of support. This is a great community. I mean, I know you always see people with the whole atheist community thing, right? With the whole up and big letter, small letter thing that they do. We do have one, regardless whether you want to believe it or not. And there are sects. There's like the a-hole atheists. There's the good atheists. There's the and I like to consider myself part of the semi-decent ones, anyways, to some degrure, where we like to help each other.
That wasn't the impression I got. I wouldn't have come on if there was any semi about it. I don't go on decent shows, so quite frankly, I don't. Okay, this will be the exception.
You're too kind, sir. I don't either. I don't like to do it.
Yeah. Well, then you should come back to In Time then.
Anytime, dude. Hit me up. I love doing that one. That was fun.
That was a blast. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, but I agree with Amy. I think we do have an amazing community. Yes, there are outliers that are bad examples of who we should be. I'm not going to name names, but I could. There's a few of them. But anyways, I think we've got it together as a community, and I think we could just push those guys aside and say, listen, they don't represent us. I know that's hard to do, but we got to do what we got to do. Just be better. That's all I can tell you. Be better. Be better than those assholes. Anyways. Nick, thank you, bud, for coming on. It's been a lot of fun, dude.
My pleasure.
And hit me up. We'll work something out so I can come back onto In Time because that was great.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. I had a great time with you guys. Anyways, guys, with the whole COVID thing going on, remember to be safe and be well, and above all, be kind. And like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, as I always say at the end of these now, shit. I hate it when my mind goes blank. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.